Okay. Okay, I think, perfect. Great, I can hear myself. Hello, everybody. We're just getting set up here. All right, Linda, I'm gonna make you the host, switch that back. Okay, looks like we're live.
Okay, it's 12. So I think, Ben, you can start now.
All right, are we ready?
Hi.
Okay. Can you guys hear me? I think that's how we have to start every call. Okay, we're live. Awesome. So welcome to Vue.js Nigeria. This is our first ever meetup, obviously. If you're here to see us set up, don't talk about it. It was part of the plan. So we're, I think almost everyone is here, just 1 or 2 speakers, but we can get on with it. So we have Ben here. Ben is part of the Vue core team, and he's here to just help us out. And let's just start things up. So Ben's going to share a few words of wisdom with everyone. And yeah. So Ben, you can speak.
Sounds great. Well, thanks everyone for joining. I'm so excited to be part of this momentous event. We've been trying to get a meetup started here with the Nigeria group for a long time. So really excited that Amy and the team here have put this together. So really excited to see all the talks that are happening today and sort of all the events that are going to happen from this going forward. So as far as, being part of the Vue community, just know that we have hopefully, like a Discord server as well, but like documentation is also really important to the team. So if there's anything you all ever have, questions about or find something confusing, please don't hesitate to reach out to us, file an issue on the GitHub repo, or if you're on Twitter, post something. We'll do our best to get to you. And yeah, we really welcome everyone to the Vue community. So thanks for being here. Ooh, Linda, I think you're muted.
Yes, is it a Zoom call if that does not happen?
It is not a Zoom call if that doesn't happen.
Yeah, it isn't. Okay, so we're going to get right into it. We have Edmund here. Edmund is going to, Edmund, how about you tell the viewers about yourself?
Okay, hello everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay, hey everyone, my name is Edmund and I'm the lead front-end engineer at Mesoverse. I enjoy using Vue.js a lot. That's what I work with. So today I'm going to be talking about getting started with Vue.js.
All right then, so you have the floor. You can share your screen and all that.
Okay, please give me a few seconds. Okay, 1 second. Prof. Shit.
Edmund, do you need a bit more time to set up? Okay, I think we lost Edmund. Okay, so we'll see if he'll get back in a few minutes. But right now, I guess I can ask our speakers how their year is going so far. I'm watching. We're finally in 2021. Is it in any way similar to 2020, or you're enjoying it so far?
It's still the beginning of the year, so let's see how it goes. But I believe this year will have better things in stock for us. Yeah, so it should be better than 2020.
Okay,
Can everyone hear me now?
Cool.
Yeah, so Edmund is here.
But Edmund is here.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry for the technical difficulties, guys. Okay, so today we're going to be talking about getting started with Vue.js, right? So let's get started. My name is Edmond, and I'm the lead front-end engineer at Mesoverse, and I'm also a technical writer. So if you want to follow along, here's a link to the demo repository, and if you check the README file, the link to the slide is also attached to that, so you can join me as we code along later on. So what is Vue.js? Right? Yeah, Vue.js is a progressive JavaScript framework for building user interfaces. And when I say progressive, I mean you can plug in Vue.js into an existing application. You can plug Vue.js into an existing application. You can start building right that instance, right? You can take advantages of the benefits of Vue.js in your application then and start using it. So how to use Vue.js in your project. You can use Vue.js in your project from a CDN. That's one way. Another way is from NPM. And then the other way, the last way is from using the Vue CLI, which we'll also talk about later on. So using Vue.js now from a CDN. On this line here, you can see that we linked the script tag to a Vue.js bundle in a CDN, right? And then the next place here, we instantiate the app. And then with some properties like the EL and data. So this EL is telling Vue.js what element in our template to attach to and render to the DOM, right? And what you're passing into EL always has to be a CSS selector, as you can see here. So this is an element with an ID of app, right? And we have a data here with a message greeting. So in the template here, you can see this div with the ID of app. So that is what Vue.js will hook up to and render to the DOM. And here we are using a template interpolation tag to display the value of greeting here. So a template interpolation tag will display the value of this, right? And we can also use JavaScript expressions in this, as we'll talk about that later. Another way is from npm. So you would run the npm command to install Vue.js, and you have to keep in mind that to run this command, you have to have Node.js and npm installed on your machine to do this. Okay, so now in your JavaScript file, you would import Vue.js and instantiate the app, just like we did with the previous example, just that in this case, you are not using a CDN, you are getting the Vue.js bundle from npm. And the final way is using the Vue CLI, right? So using the Vue CLI, you would have to install the Vue fucking hell. Okay, hello, can you? Hello, can you hear me? I think I was disconnected for some seconds.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sorry for the disconnection. Yeah, okay. So to install the Vue CLI, you need to have npm and node installed as well, and then you install the CLI globally on your machine. And next, you run the command vue create my app to create a new project using Vue.js. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go into demo time and we build something with Vue.js so everyone can see how awesome it is. Okay, so I'll open my terminal here and show you what it is. So I already have the Vue CLI installed on my laptop, but if you wanted to install it, if you didn't, you would have to run npm install-g at vue/CLI, right? So that's the command to run it. So since I already have this, I'm just going to run the command to create a new Vue.js project, which is vue create to do app. So I run this command and I think everyone, you can't see my, okay, let me do this. Okay, yeah. So I think my terminal was out of the view before. Okay, so now I already have the command on my, okay, wait, let me try that one more time. I think I canceled it. So Vue create to do, right? So this is the command to run to create a new Vue.js app. And as you can see, we have been given some options. So we have the option to start with a Vue 2 default setup. We're just going to use the default setup, right, for Vue 2. I'm going to cancel this now because this is going to take a while to install, and I already have this fresh project set up on my laptop already. So I'm just going to quit now and cd into.
Sorry, Edmond, we can't see your terminal.
Okay, yeah, I had a feeling that was okay. Let me switch now. Okay, you can see it now, right? Yeah. Okay, so okay, so let's say let me go back a few moments. To create a new Vue.js project, you run Vue create to do, right? So to do in this case is the name of the app we want to create. And when I hit enter, I'll be given some options to set up the project. I already have that installed, right? But if in this case, if for anyone who's following along, use the first option, default Vue 2 to start the project. So I already have this project set up before to save time. So I'm just going to cancel and continue from there. Yeah. So I'll open the project in my code editor now, and then switch my screen to view the contents of my code editor. Yeah. Okay. Now I'm sharing my code editor. So so let's get started. If we check in the package.json file, which is a very interesting file, we can see that we have some scripts to get started with. So in this case, we are going to be using the serve command to set up a development server and start running our app while we're building. So first off, I'm going to run npm run serve for Vue to start a development server to serve our app locally. So while we're waiting for that to run, yes. So now we have our development server is up, and we can now open our app in localhost 80. Let me just open this here. I think this is faster this way. Yes, like this. So now we have a new Vue app in our browser, which we can start working with. So first off, we're going to be working in this src directory, and the src directory is the main folder where you do all your development. And this main.js file is the entry point for a Vue.js application. My camera is disconnected. Okay, so the JS file is the entry point for a Vue.js application. So we can see we are importing Vue here and instantiating the app here with the element that has the ID of app. And then this app.vue file is the base component we're going to be working in. And this file is called a single file component. And what a single file component is that it's a single file, it's a .vue file that is a combination of your HTML markup, your JavaScript logic, and your CSS styling, all in one file. So everything is kind of enclosed to that file, and everything you are going to be building on belongs to that component. So what we're going to do now is just clear the component up a bit so we can get started with building our app, right? Remove this and we're set. So if you check the browser now, we have a clean page to get started with. Yes. So first off, I'm going to just going to start off with some HTML to do app, right? And what we want to achieve is, what we want to build now is a to-do app, right? And what we're going to need for that is an input field, a button to add task, right? Some list elements to list our tasks, and a delete button to remove a task. So that's what I'm going to be writing the markup for now. So input. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Don't mind my shoddy HTML. I'm not even writing styling or even considering accessibility in this case. I just want to build fast. So pardon me, everyone. Task. Yes. So then HR, I'm even using HR and line breaks in this case because we don't want to write CSS to build faster. Okay. So now we have this. So we have the input tag, the input element, a button to add a task, and a horizontal rule to separate content. So yes. So what we want to do now, right, is now that we have this base markup here, we want to start building in some functionalities into our app. So the first thing we want to achieve is that when our user types a task in here, we want to be able to capture the content of this task and add it to somewhere for storage before we can list on our page, right? So one way to do that is what is a directive, right? So Vue.js provides us with some handy features called directive. And a directive is an attribute, it's a special attribute that begins with a v-prefix. And we can use that to write some JavaScript expressions to achieve some custom features in our app. So first off, I'm going to create a place for Vue.js to hold the data from this text field here. So in a single file component, there is an option called the data option, which is responsible for holding properties that will be used in our app. And it always has to return an object. Right? So we're going to create a data property called task. It's going to be a string. And now what we want to do is sync the content of this input field to this property here. So this property can hold it. And with that, and to do that, we're going to be using the v model directive. So we're going to use v model task. So v model helps us achieve data binding in our app. So we are binding the value from this input field to this variable here. And let me show everyone a way to check that, to be sure that we're what I said is actually true. So I have a handy extension I installed on my machine, on my browser, called Vue.js DevTools, and I can use that to debug when I'm building in my application, in my Vue.js applications. So we have the app component here, as you can see, and it's reflecting our browser here. We also have this task data property here, as you can see, which is also here. So if I type hello here, you should be able to see the text in this data property here. Okay, So now that we have that out of the way, we need another feature that can add a task to a storage that we'll be using. So one way to do that is with methods. And you can think of methods as functions you can call in your application at any point in time, right? So on this button now, we are going to add a click listener for this button, that when it's clicked, we add the content of this input field to the storage we need. So we do not need to write vanilla JavaScript in this case for a click listener. We can use a v-on directive, just like the Vue model. One second. Okay. So we can use a v-on directive to listen for a click event and then to call this function, right? So now we have to register this function, which is add task, and we register it as a method in our component like this, add task. And we also forgot to create a storage for our tasks, which is this array here. So we can now say, when this button is clicked, this function will be called here. This function here will be called. So now that we have this function registered, we want to be able to access this task, right? Take the value and then add it here. So how we're going to do that is with the this keyword, right? So in a component, in a single file component, the this keyword always refers to the Vue instance, which is everything you can see here, right? Within the script tag here. So we can say this dot task, right? So if we use this dot task, it's referring to this property here, right? So we can say this dot tasks dot push, because it's an array, this dot task, like that. So we are able to add this task in here. We also want to be able to reset the value of the task. So we set it back to an empty string after adding it to this array here, So let's test that. So we have, let me open this so you can see. Yeah, okay, so we have, okay, so that works. When I click this button, the value of task is taken from here, put in this array, and this is reset. So you can see how awesome it is to do this with Vue, right? It's so easy that we don't have to write any event handlers, custom event handlers, or a way to take this value and set it somewhere else. We just have short lines of directives like this to handle this for us. So now that we've been able to store our task, we need a way to list them on our page now. So what we are going to do now is work with a component, right? So in this components directory is where you will typically create new components and reuse them across your app. So we're going to create a new .vue file in this directory called one sec. Okay, yeah. Task list .vue. Yes. So with this file, we can use it to import, to list our tasks. We can use it to list our tasks. So we're going to create a structure similar to this one we had here that Vue created for us. So we are going to create the template, which is where all our markup will live. The script, where we will write, okay, wrong spelling. Yeah, where we'll write our application logic and the style, right? In this case, we're not going to be writing any style, so there's really no need for this. Okay, so now in this script tag, every single file component have to export an object, because that is where the data another component will use from that component is. So I don't know if that makes any sense. So yeah, the single file component always have to have a default export, which is an object, right? So we can give this component a name called task list. And okay, so that's for the script now. And in the template, right, in this template, there's one thing we have to note when working with a single file component. In the template, there always has to be a root element that this template is going to render. So in our case, right, we already have this. What we need now is some list elements, right? So we can make the root element in this template a UL, which is another list, right? We can have another list to display the task, and we can see now that the single file component is happy with us. We don't have that error anymore. So now we're going to import this single file component here into our app.vue component like this. Import task list, right, from its location, which is /component/task list. And then we have to register it with this app.vue component, so it's aware of that. Yeah. So now this task list here is referencing this, right? So we have that imported into our script. That's one way, that's one step. The next step is to also reference that in our template, because this is where the view is, and this is what will be displayed on the page. So we also have to display the content of the task list component, and we can do it by like this, task list. Okay, what's wrong with my spelling today? Okay, task list, and we close it like this. So we can wrap the name in two opening and closing pairs of angle brackets like this. But that's not all, because we've not achieved all we want to. We've just been able to create this component, import it, and add it to our web page here, as you can see. Now we want to be able to pass the content of these tasks into this component to render. And how we are going to achieve that is by props. So props help us pass data from a parent component down to the child component to use. So in this case, the app.vue is a parent to tasklist.component, tasklist.vue. So when we go to tasklist.vue, we're going to create another option called props, like this, props, and we specify what we want to pass down to the tasklist.vue, which is tasks, right? So the child component has to be aware of what you're passing down to it. So we're going to say tasks, and we have to specify the type of what you're passing down, which is an array like this. So we're passing down an array of tasks to this component. And now this child component task list is aware that we're passing down some data to it. So now that we have the prop set up, we now want to pass the tasks from the parent component to the child. And we can do that with another directive called v-bind. So v-bind, and we are binding tasks and setting the value to these tasks here, like this. Yes. Okay, so let's check that out in our browser. So let's say we have a task called walk the dog, right? We add it. We can check here. So let's look at the parent first, right? We have this tasks array, and we can see our element here, walk the dog. And inside task list again, you can see that walk the dog is present because we've been able to pass it from app.view to task list.view. Okay, so now that we have this out of the way, we want to be able to render the tasks now. So we're going to be making use of another directive again because there are so many awesome directives, and why shouldn't we use them all, right? So what we want to do now is to create a list tag and use the v-for directive to loop through these tasks and render each of the items in the task list. Okay, so we have, you can get the task and the index of the task, right? The position of the task in the array, because we're going to need that soon in tasks. So this here is a JavaScript expression telling Vue.js to loop through tasks and take out the task item and the index of the item from the array. And if you hover on this error line here, you can see that we require a key. Now, the key is there for a purpose because it helps Vue track the order which these tasks are rendered, right? So if we were to sort the tasks array now, we wouldn't want Vue to re-render the whole component because that's going to be expensive. So with the key, Vue is able to track the position of each of these items. And say, for instance, we sort them, Vue can just easily reorder them by their keys because we already gave that to Vue.js and it's aware of that. So we say v bind key, we're binding the key, right? And the key of an item always has to be unique. That's why in this case, we are using the index because every index of an element in an array is always unique to that element. So yeah, so we're binding the index now and our compiler is happy with us. So now that we have this looping done, we can use the template interpolation, as I mentioned earlier, to display the task on the page. So this, it's going to display the value of this task inside this li element here. So you can already see that's displaying on the page. So let's say we have close the door task. And if we add that, it's going to display here on the page. Awesome, right? So we have one more thing to do, which is deleting a task, right? So I'm going to modify this li element here a little bit to accommodate for that. So we're going to wrap this in a span and then create a new button. That's a new button. So when this button is clicked, we call another method to delete this task. Okay, so, okay, sorry, yeah. Okay, so we're going to add some text for the button now. Delete, right? And then we create a method called delete task. When this, and then we add a listener. So when this button is clicked, the function will be called. Yeah. So there are some, how do I put this? Yeah, so there is kind of a gotcha with doing this because what we want to achieve here is modify data from the parent to the child. And that's not advisable, right? To modify data from a parent component in the child component because it's not going to be synced. So since we've been able to pass data down from the parent to the child, we want to signal the parent component to do the deleting itself, right? So one way we can do that is with custom events in Vue. So we want to emit an event from task list to app.vue, telling app.vue to delete this specific item from the tasks. So we're going to pass the task now to this function and then retrieve that here so that we can emit that to the parents. And to emit an event, we can use the this.emit method that exists on any component in Vue.js, right? And we create a custom event called delete task, and we're passing in a payload called task. So the first argument to this method is the name of the event, and the second is the value you're passing that you want to use later. So once this button is clicked, we take the task, pass it here, right? Retrieve it, and use that to call a custom event. So now, on this task list component, we can now listen for that event with v-on delete task, right? And then we can now attach a handler for this event now, which is also a method. So we can create a new method called remove task here. Let me change the name so it will be easier to understand. So remove task, and then we're calling remove task with, okay, so like this. Yes. So now we have the handler in place, and we're able to retrieve this payload passed here to in this method here, so which is task, right? So now that we have this, we want to remove the task from this tasks array. And the short way to do it so far that I've seen is to just reassign the value of tasks, remove the task from the array, and then just reassign that. So we say this dot tasks equals to dot tasks dot filter, taking the element, we're using an arrow function to say, so return any element that is not the task we want to delete, right? So we're only filtering the array and returning the task that is not the one we want to delete, which is element is not equals to task. Yeah. Okay, so we have the remove task. I think this should work now. So let's add a new task. Yeah. And okay, so deleting is not working. I think I may have missed something. So let me just pass this here. Let's see. Did I miss the spelling? Task. Okay. Oh, I see. I see. I didn't spell this correctly. Yeah. Okay, I think that should work now. still something I'm missing here. Are we having any errors? Oh, we have a lot of errors. Oh. I think I've missed the naming of something. Okay, our time is almost up, so I just want to save some time here and do it this way, because I think I may have missed a spelling somewhere and I can't. So let's do it this way. We're just going to this dot task, modify it from here, but I'll show you why I said so in a minute, because if we modify this array from the parent, it wouldn't sync to from the child, it wouldn't sync to the parent, right? So, which is not always desirable in an app, but because of time, we're just going to do it this way. Let's just copy this, save more time. And just remove this here, because
I
we don't need
think it's remove task, not delete task. I think the methods, you mixed up the names.
Yeah, I think so. I saw that because at the first time I didn't miss the capital T in the first the component there. So let's just okay. So let's review this one more time. When the button is clicked, call this method with task, and this is task. Yeah. Okay, this should work now. Delete task is not defined on. Oh, it's my spelling. Delete task. I don't know what's wrong with my spelling today, honestly. Okay, so let's test this one more time. Yeah, okay, so that should work. But then, you see what Vue.js is telling us? Avoid mutating a prop directly, since the value will be overwritten. So Vue is throwing an error to us that we can't be mutating a prop from the child. It's a bad idea because the data is not synced. If you added something to the array from the child, it would not reflect on the component. So that's why we shouldn't do that. But for today, I'm just going to ask for a pardon to be let off with this one, because time is not on our hands here and we're trying to speed up for the remaining speakers. So so that's it, right? We've been able to achieve a simple to-do app application here. So we add the task. And we can also delete it here. So let me see if I can go over this one more time, right? So the app.vue file is the base component, right? Which is a single file component. And a single file component will have a template, which is your HTML, the script tags, which is your logic, and your CSS here, which will be your style. In the script tag, it always has to export a default object, and there are other options you can use in this object which are native to Vue.js, right? So to import a component, you would create a component in the components folder like this, which will have the same structure as this same base component here, and then import that here with this line here. So we import task list from where it is, register it, and then also add it to the template so it can be rendered. And then to pass down data from a parent to a child, you would normally, you will create a props. You would set a prop in the child component that you are expecting this data from the parent, and you specify the type of the data you want from the parent. And then on the parent, you use a vbind directive to send the data from here, from the parent to the child with the name of the props, which is tasks. So with that, you can access the props inside the child using the this keyword and the name of the prop, which is tasks, right? So the props, you can treat the props just like your data property, because in the data property, you will access this, the properties in there using the this keyword and then the name of the property. You can also do the same with props. So there's no special way with accessing props. So that's all for the demo, and we're done. Thank you very much for your time. We're done with our demo. Yeah, so I also have some things we didn't touch on because of time in this demo, like computed properties, watchers, custom events. I touched custom events, but we couldn't see the full functionality because I was creating bugs instead of not creating them. Routing with Vue Router and state management with Vuex. So here is a link to the official documentation for Vue.js, and you can learn all about Vue.js there and some helpful resources you can find there also. Thank you for your time. If you have any questions or you want to talk to me about Vue.js, you can shoot at me on Twitter. I also have a YouTube channel, which I'm working on at the moment to create content about Vue.js and some other technologies I enjoy using. So that's all. Now it's time for Q&A. Does anyone have any questions?
So the questions are being posted on the YouTube channel. So I think we can have, I'll get back to you like on the questions during some discussion sessions that I would have in the future, if that's fine.
Okay, okay, all right. All right, thank you, everyone.
Nice. Okay, so that was getting started with Vue.js by Edmund. Thank you very much. I think this is a really great way to start up the meetup by introducing people to Vue.js. And Vue.js has a wonderful documentation. So even if you couldn't grasp everything during that, you should know that they have wonderful documentation that you can rely on and get you started. You should build your next project with Vue.js. You won't regret it. So our next speaker is Amarachi. I'm going to be referring to her as Amy because we have two Amarachis on the call. What are the odds? So Amarachi, I'm going to hand over the baton to you. You can get started. Okay, you're muted.
All right, good day, everyone. Yeah, I'm trying to share my screen now. So I'll do that now. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
You can see my screen. All right. Good day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining Vue.js Nigerian first official meetup. So my talk today, we're going to be talking about front-end developer roadmap. So basically, this is a beginner's guide. So if peradventure you already have a career or you've started a career in front-end development, most of the things I'm saying here will already be familiar with it. So this is basically a beginner's guide to front-end development. So let's get started. Hello everyone, my name is Amicha Marachi. I'm a front-end developer and also a technical writer, and you can find me on Twitter at Amarachi Amichi. Now let's get into what we have for today. What is front-end development? So front-end development, also known as the client-side development, is the practice of producing HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for a website or web application so that a user can see and interact with them directly. So most time people ask, what is the front end part of a website? So basically, the front end part of a website is everything you see and interact with when you log into a website. So for example, if you go to maybe twitter.com, everything you interact with, from tweeting, from liking, from retweeting, from quoting the tweet, everything you interact with, everything you see, like when you go into a website, the form you fill and the buttons you click, that's basically front end, the front end part of a website. So who is a front end developer? A front end developer is someone who is responsible for building the front end of a website. So basically, a front end developer builds client-side applications using the web technologies such as HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In 2021, which is the year we are in now, front-end development has gone way beyond just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. There are a lot of web technologies you need to learn to be able to excel as a front-end developer in 2021. So this is a picture of Facebook first version. We can see how the web has evolved over the years. This is way back in 2004, Facebook first version, and this is the new Facebook we have now. And this is Twitter old version, and this is the new Twitter we have now. So we can see that a lot has changed in terms of design, user experience, and so many others. So here I'm talking about some of these skills you need to become a front-end developer. So as I said earlier, this is a beginner's guide. So some of the skills you need to become a front-end developer: 1, basic terminal usage. Terminal, it's basically an interface used to execute text content. So, and it gives you access to the underlying operating system. So basic terminal usage is a skill that all developers, regardless of their specialization, must be able to use. So if you're a front end, you're a back end, you're a mobile app developer, you need to understand how the command line works, because the command line is very, very important, and I strongly recommend that you actually study more on how to use it. So as a front-end developer, the more or the better you are with the command line, the more efficient you will be as a front-end developer. We have Git. What is Git? Git basically is a version control system that enables us track changes in our projects. So Git also helps developers collaborate as a team, and Git is needed among developers to ensure that there's no code conflict between the developers. So if you're just starting out, I recommend you learn how to use Git. And when you're building your project, you might want to delete, you might want to add some files. So with Git, Git will help you keep track of all the changes you're making. So in case you want to go back to the old changes or you want to retain the current change you made, Git help keep track of all the changes you make in your project. And the next is GitHub. GitHub is a code hosting platform for software developers. So basically, when you build from your local computer, and most time it's not advisable to just leave it there. So platforms like GitHub give you the opportunity to host your project on their platform, which is GitHub, a code hosting platform. So you can host your project there, and wherever you are, you can always access your project. So GitHub is not only the code hosting platform we have, but basically is the one we always recommend for someone who is starting out as a front-end developer. So we have Bitbucket and we have GitLab, so you can check that out too. And then we have text editor, and for text editor, the text editor basically, or the IDE, which is our integrated development environment, it's basically where you write your code. So we have Visual Studio, we have Sublime, we have Anton. And the Visual Studio is the best IDE for front-end development. Visual Studio works across all operating systems. So whether you have a Mac OS, a Windows, or a Linux, or any operating system, Visual Studio works for any operating system, and it actually comes with a great deal of extension, which helps in improving your productivity as a front-end developer. So we have Sublime, and we also have Anton. So I would just recommend Visual Studio for its starts. Then we have here, we have the basics of the website. So we have HTML, we have CSS, we have JavaScript. The website is made up of these three technologies. And now let's go to HTML. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is the markup language for building web pages. So HTML, it's a building block of the web. And I will also say that HTML is easy to learn, and with just HTML, you can actually build a basic website. So this is a website here that was built with just HTML. But with the current age we are now, like the current 21st century, nobody will want to see a website that is as basic as this, and that is where CSS come into place. So there are a lot of things you learn in HTML, but won't be going deep. So HTML has a lot of stuff, which if you go on YouTube and just search for HTML tutorials or HTML, you are going to see all the things you need to learn or cover to be a front-end developer. So for HTML, you can look at HTML headings, you can look at you can look at HTML forms, you can look at HTML elements, HTML attributes, and layouts, and many more. So now let's go to CSS. So as I said, this website is basic, and that is where our CSS comes in to help us style our HTML. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. It is the technology to learn after your HTML. So after you have grabbed some of the knowledge or the basic knowledge you need in your HTML, then you move on to CSS. So CSS is used for styling our HTML. So for example, with CSS, we can put in colors to this basic website. We can add colors here. We can add background images. We can add animations to our website. And some things you need to focus, or some things you need to learn in the process, like we have CSS box margin. CSS box margin consists of margin, box model, CSS box model consists of margin, border, padding. These are some of the necessities you need to learn while learning CSS. And we have the CSS grid and CSS flexbox. CSS grid and CSS flexbox are part of our responsive design. So CSS grid basically is a two-dimensional system with rows and columns. CSS grid makes it easy to structure a web page without having to use floats. Then we have CSS Flexbox. So Flexbox is a one-dimensional system that allows you to choose between a row and a column as the main layout or structure of a web page. So the CSS Flexbox also makes it more flexible for you to structure a web page also without using floats. So after the meetup, you can go ahead and make more research about it, because we'll be doing a deep dive into all this stuff. And then we have the media query. So media queries are useful when you want to modify your application to fit a device such as the desktop, tablet, and phone. So this image here illustrates how an application is viewed on different devices when built with responsive design. So for example, this big one here is the desktop, application. So when you make it responsive, and this is how it's going to be viewed when someone who is using a tablet is actually on your website, and this is how it's going to be viewed when someone with a phone or a small phone is actually viewing your website from a phone. And then we have CSS frameworks. So CSS frameworks are tools used by front-end developers to make their job easy or easier. So CSS framework, we have Tailwind. So Tailwind basically is a utility-first CSS framework for building rapidly, for building custom user interface. So Tailwind allows us to use inline styling and also achieve incredible results without using a single line of CSS. Then we have Bootstrap. Bootstrap helps you build fast and responsive websites. Then we have Boma. Boma is also a CSS framework based on the Flexbox layouts. Then we also have the Foundation. Foundation is a responsive front-end framework that makes it easy to design responsive apps on any devices. Then we have now the third technology, as I stated earlier, basic of the web. We have HTML, CSS, and now we have JavaScript. So JavaScript is the language of the web. And according to research, JavaScript is one of the most popular programming language in the world. So if you're learning JavaScript, then you should know that you are among the most, okay, well, I don't know what to say there. So JavaScript is one of the most popular language in the web, so you should be lucky if you are part of the people learning JavaScript. So as a front-end developer, it is required that you learn JavaScript because JavaScript enables you to create dynamic content. So when you create your HTML structure and you start with your CSS, JavaScript helps to make the website more dynamic and feel alive. So JavaScript, which is like the vanilla JavaScript, frameworks also have been put in place and libraries to make building application easy and faster, more reliable. So we have, I'll just deal with 3 frameworks and libraries here, but there are lots, but since this is just a beginner's guide, I'll be talking about Vue, React, and Angular. So Vue is a progressive framework for building user interface, and our first speaker, Edmond, has taken us already on Vue and the great things you can use Vue to do. So I'll recommend that after learning the basic of JavaScript, I highly recommend that you make Vue.js your first choice because it is actually beginner friendly. And then we have another framework. We have React. React is an open source front-end JavaScript library for building user interface or UI components. React is maintained by Facebook and community of individual developers and companies. Then we have Angular. Angular is an application design framework and development platform for creating efficient and sophisticated single-page app. And then this is the basic of the website that I earlier stated. And this is HTML. HTML here is just the structure, and this is JS, and this is CSS. CSS now has been styled and clothed, and all this, the naked or the skeleton of this, we are no longer seeing it because now CSS has made Mr. Website look beautiful. Yeah, we are talking about website deployment. With the knowledge gotten from HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, you can actually build a simple web page using any of the technology we stated earlier. Most time after building, it remains in our computer or probably our GitHub repo our GitHub repo, and there's no way we can actually show people what we built. But with web deployments, you can host your application on the internet. It is easy, and you can use any of these tools. We have Netlify, we have GitHub pages, and we have Vercel. So you can try out any of these tools. So basically, when you finish building and keeping it in your local repo, local computer, your local host, which is your computer, or keeping it just in your GitHub, it is advisable you host whatever projects you have built so other people can see and comment and give you feedback on it. So to end my talk, I'll just be giving a salary range for front-end developers in Nigeria. So because this is Nigeria, I'm talking about dollars. So this is just it for intern entry developer. We have 40 to 50K. 40 to 150K range. For intermediate, mid-level, we have 150 to 300K. For senior, we have 300K to 600K. And note that this actually varies with different companies. And I'll be I'll be ending my talk here. Thank you. So if there's any question, you can comment in the YouTube channel and it will be answered. Thank you. Shutting down done. Okay, stop sharing.
Thank you very much, Amarachi. I think the junior developers present would really enjoy that. You're still sharing your screen?
Yeah, I'm trying to stop sharing. How do I share?
Okay, I was just saying that. Okay, I think you stopped sharing now. I was saying that I think that the junior developers would enjoy this. You really started from the basics all the way down to the frameworks. And when you're getting into front-end development, because everybody loves front-end and Vue and all of that, it's very easy to want to just skip all the way to the end. But as Amarachi just pointed out, there are a lot of things you have to learn in between to make the whole process easier for you. Thank you very much, Amarachi. So to just ease things out a bit, I'm going to be talking with my fellow panelists, and I just want to know, what would you say, like an example of a rookie mistake that you made when you started out in with your programming journey? Do you guys have any to share? I'm also open to the ones, you can share your mistakes in the comment section. And you can also tweet at us at Vue.js NG. Kati, you switched on your video. I'm assuming you have a rookie mistake for me.
Yeah, this was like 7 years ago, so long. So when I started writing PHP, I was very, very excited. So this was like my first experience as a freelance developer. So I was telling everybody, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I reached out to this guy and he was like, yes, I'm actually going to build the first new Amazon, but for drinks. And we are going to sell champagne and wine across the whole of Africa. So that same night, I was like, wow, this is vision. So that same night, I picked up YouTube tutorials and I built like half of everything for the next 3 weeks of my life without doing anything else. So I was just building and building and building and building, learning as I built. And then 3 weeks later, I called the customer and I was like, wow, so this is what we have so far. I've engineered everything. And the customer was like, you know what? I think it's actually going to be beds and not drinks. We want to sell beds and not drinks. And I was like, oh my God, because I already had all of this database structure about champagne and wine and things like that. And then now he's interested in beds. So I have to go and learn how to build an e-commerce application, not for drinks, but for beds. And then I made the exact same mistake again. I did the same thing for 3 weeks. And then after that, the customer's number was not going through even till today.
Wow.
Yeah. So very big rookie mistake. It's not code, it's business. It's not code, it's business. So always remember that you probably have to take a down payment, an agreement, or something. It's not just about the code, it's about understanding the customer's problem, how to solve it, making sure that you're just not writing code. So a lot of things, a lot of mistakes I made, but I hope you get to learn from my experience. Yeah.
I think in your own case, like when he changed it from drinks and paint to bird, I think you had better luck finding a bird like that's named champagne. Maybe you should have like discovered a new species of bird or something. Because if it's me, like that's literally what I'll do. I'll be like, I've been building this for so long. There has to be a bird somewhere called champagne.
Yeah, I messed up
I'm actually
with
Edward.
data.
Okay, I think maybe as for you, like my own mistake wasn't, will I say, as huge as yours. Like I didn't end up building or anything. But when I started my internship at first and doing onboarding, if you guys don't know, okay, I started as an intern at backends. So during the onboarding stage and everything, I was asked to install Google Chrome, and I just finished. I think I was just getting really familiar with the terminal then, and I was like, oh my gosh, so you could install these things with the terminal. And then when they said I should install Google Chrome or Chrome with, I should install Chrome, I basically tried to install Chrome with the terminal. In my own head, I thought like, oh, let me be impressive. And I still cringe when I look back at it, but yeah, that's a very cute mistake that I made. It's not really a mistake, but it was just a rookie thing that I did. And it's fine to make mistakes, and because you'd always look back and you'd laugh at them, and they're not as brave as or as bad as you think they are. Everything is just a learning process. So I want to see your mistakes in the comment section. Let us know. There's no point in like everyone behaving as though like, oh, I know everything, I'm good at everything. We can be open about it. That's one of the reasons why we have this Vue.js meetup. So you can share your mistakes and know that, hey, you're not the only one going through a particular struggle. Okay? All right. So moving on to our next talk, we actually have Kati. Kati is going to be sharing with us integrating Vue with the backend. So this is something I'm particularly excited about because I'm a front-end developer, and sometimes you just want to write backend code. So the floor is yours.
Okay.
Kachi, I don't know if it's my network. Okay, you're on.
Yes.
It seems like we've lost Kachi for a bit. Hopefully he'll be back on soon. You guys want to hear another mistake? Kachi should come back before I have to share another mistake. Okay. It's not as if all I do is make mistakes. So, but okay, there's a time I so I was working on this feature and everything, and then I was doing some testing, and I wanted to kind of like, let's say, bypass a different process. So I deleted a block of code. Now that I look back, I should have just commented the block of code out. That way it would have been more obvious. But I deleted a block of code, and that block of code was actually very, very important. It was like a very big feature. And then I created a PR and somehow it got into production, and then broke the app for just like an hour. But that hour felt so long, like I broke an app, but it was fixed really quickly, and I didn't die. So that's another mistake that I made. So next time, don't delete, just even if you want to like delete a block of code, make sure you have a reminder or something, like maybe in your Q&A checklist, make sure that you put everything back in place before you merge into production. And okay, Edmund, I have a question for you.
Okay.
How has your 2021 been compared to 2020?
I think it's been great so far. Yeah, it's been great so far.
Okay.
2020 was a learning opportunity for me, and 2021 is an opportunity to put those things to action. So it's been great so far for me.
Okay, so everyone is expecting really good things to happen in 2021, and hopefully that would happen. As for you, what are you excited about with Vue.js? I know Vue.js lets us do a lot of fun things right now and great things, but what are you hoping to see from Vue in the future? Might not happen in 2021, but as for me, I think I would love voice recognition. Like if I say, oh, build me Facebook, it like run it automatically and then hook up the backend.
Okay, yeah, that's
Yeah.
one. That would be awesome too. Um, Another one will be everyone using Vue.js, everyone in the entire world.
Are you serious?
Though, yeah. That would be fun. We don't know if that's possible, right? So it should be. I mean, Vue is awesome. Why shouldn't everybody use it?
Yeah, that would actually be cool if everyone is using Vue. Another thing, like one thing with frontend that I hate is where you have to like check with different browsers. I wish somehow Vue would just Vue would make the whole world go around. I wish Vue would merge all the browsers together, and well, I'm tired of like check my CSS everything is working on Chrome, and then Safari is always Safari. Safari will be like, no,
Yeah.
no, you can't do that here. We don't do that here. But yeah, that's just asking too much of you. Maybe just I don't know.
Yeah, I actually have
You know what I'm
that
saying?
problem. Yeah, I actually do have that problem. I think it's even very recent, right? So on our project, most of the times when I'm working, I work with Chrome, but then I noticed something when I test with Edge. Um, the last element in a, let's say, in a layout now, if you applied margin or padding, right, that doesn't work on the last element in Edge, which is kind of weird because it should, right? But then it doesn't. I have to find a way to make it work that would look the same on Chrome as well as Edge, so I don't have
Yeah,
to. Oh man, front end is. But that's not to
yeah.
that's not to discourage
Well,
our audience. So front end is awesome, please.
But now to be really serious, I think a feature that I want with Vue was recently I was building a converter, and with converters you have two inputs and they are linked together. And with Vue, that the two-way binding between inputs didn't work properly. I had to kind of like hack through it and say, oh, put event listeners on the two inputs and then check, oh, if this is happening, run this and all that. I think we can really fix the two-way binding between two inputs. That would be really cool. But enough of our problems. Kati is here with a
Yeah.
solution to backend stuff.
Hi, Linda. Please, can you add Katie to the panelist? He's not able to share a screen.
Oh, I thought I did that.
No.
Okay, Kati, you should be able to share your screen now.
Okay, are we back?
Yes, we can hear you.
I think we are. All right. Thank you guys so much for waiting. Don't upgrade to Mac OS Big Sur. It's just going to mess up every application on your system, especially Zoom. But yeah, thank you guys for waiting. My name is Franz, and I want to talk about how to integrate Vue with your backend application. The reason why I'm giving this talk is because I've noticed that the decisions you make when building applications, they kind of determine your experience when working with that framework or how your project goes. For example, if you are using the wrong thing, let's say you want to build an application for real-time chats and you are using the wrong database, then you're just gonna have a really hard time and you will think back and it's difficult. So we want to talk about how to integrate your Vue application and basically different scenarios and what you would do to go about that in the easiest and fastest way possible. So I'm currently a core maintainer of 10CGS, a really amazing serverless content management and distribution system built with JavaScript. I think it's really fun. So if you have a chance, just go ahead and look at it. So there are two ways that are very popular for integrating Vue in an application. So I'm gonna assume that this is probably the first time that your company is interested in Vue. For example, let's say you have a huge monolith and now you want to migrate from Angular 1 to Vue. or maybe you have React, and because you're having many junior developers, you want to migrate from React to Vue. So the first method is the drop-in Vue integration, and we'll talk about that. The second method is the full-blown single-page application method. So these are the two most popular ways that Vue is integrated in applications or integrated with backends. So the first is the drop-in integration, and this is basically the easiest way to get started with Vue. What happens is you go to a specific part of your application, and then you make Vue available only in that part of your application. So for example, if you have a main section like we have here, it's like a products page. And on your products page, you have comments, and then you have a list of products. Then you can say, okay, for the commenting on products, we want to use Vue. So you would go to just that specific div where you have comments, which is the idea of live comments here. And then you would create a Vue app and mount it on that particular section. That way, Vue only works there, and the whole part of the application can be Angular, can be React, or jQuery, or just a backend templating engine. And then your team can incrementally build features in Vue. And in the space of 3 to 4 months, or as large as your project may be, then you're going to migrate completely to Vue. So that's the drop-in way of integrating Vue.js. Now, there is the next method of integrating Vue, but let's talk about some disadvantages and advantages for the drop-in method. So when you're deciding to go with this method of integrating Vue, the first advantage you're going to have is the incremental integration, where you can do things bit by bit and there's no rush. Then the second is the fast and it's easy to get started. So you can literally use a CDN link and get started and build a whole commenting system into your application without using NPM or anything like that. You can just build it there, and then you can migrate in future. Then you also have faster load times in production because you can definitely just fetch data over the wire instead of compiling the HTML on the backend, right? Now, some disadvantages or things that you're going to experience: you still need to fully server-side render for most applications. So let's say you're building Laravel or Python, you would probably have to integrate Vue into an already existing Python code base, and then you would still have to render server-side rendering that would then render to the browser, and then the browser would execute Vue, right? So this is kind of a disadvantage, but I believe that the advantages based on the kind of business you have would like supersede this. Then also, the front end and the back end engineers work on the same code base, which is not very bad, but might be if the code base is huge and is very, annoying for the front end engineers to work with the back end engineers. And it's just going to be kind of messy, right? And also integration testing might become challenging because your back end is now tightly coupled to your front end, all right? So the second way is to build a full-blown single-page application. And you can use this with Vue CLI, like Edmund showed us at the beginning of the meetup. And so many front-end frameworks for Vue have come out just with this same methodology. We have Gatsby, we have Nuxt.js, we have Gridsom, we have Vue CLI to generally generate just a simple Vue single-page application. So the advantage of this is that the engineering teams are going to be separate. So you would have the front-end engineers on their own repository, for example, and the back-end engineers will just be returning JSON to the front end. Then we'll have faster load times because we can definitely host a Spa on CDNs and then just make that available when we need. Then we can also have a snappier user experience, and the application is definitely going to load faster since we are just pulling in JSON from the backend, right? Now, the disadvantages: tougher authentication flows. In the backend or in the drop-in scenario, you're most likely using something like Laravel or Python, and then your backend is going to handle authentication and just render the Vue application, right? But in this case, you have to handle authentication, which is tricky, which is tough. Imagine having to implement full-blown OAuth 2 authentication in a Vue app with refresh token rotation. It's just complicated, right? So these are problems that you're definitely going to face. So if your business or your team is planning to use Vue, then they definitely have to handle all of these challenges. So there's also higher security risk because some information has to be available to the browser, just like security tokens, access tokens, and it just increases the security risk in your application. Then you need a separate build system, a separate architecture, a separate deployment flow, separate continuous integration and deployment. Everything has to be separate. And this is the disadvantage of going with the full-blown methodology. But yeah, so you need to kind of look at the both ways and make sure that you're making the right decision for your business. So no matter the methodology that you use to integrate your backend, you're still going to have to handle API calls. So let's talk about the most popular ways that you can. The first thing is just using fetch. You can just go into your Vue and then just call fetch and then fetch data in a method or in a lifecycle hook when the component maps, right? And this is probably the easiest and fastest way to get started fetching data in Vue applications or really on the front end. Just use fetch so that you do not have any problems. You kind of get to enjoy Vue without getting to or without having to worry about how difficult it is to do certain tasks, right? But this also has its disadvantages or drawbacks. Now, your data fetching is tightly coupled to your components, and you kind of do not want this. But if you're building a tiny app, like maybe a practice to-do list, then this is really good. If you're building maybe a tiny, a small converter for your company, then this kind of works and it makes sense. And also testing is a little bit more complicated because you probably have to mock out fetch, or you have to either fake the response and things like that. But if you have isolated components, then testing is kind of easier. All right. So remember, I'm giving you the advantages and drawbacks, and then based on the kind of business or application you want to build, then you know how to make the decision. So also in Vue 3, we have the composition API, and it's really amazing because it can give us those tiny, nice functions that we just call to get the data that we need. So in this case, we would move all of our composable to a separate folder, and then whenever we need a function, then we're just going to get it from the composable and then call it and then get the data, right? So this is probably when your application starts to grow and you're maybe building an e-commerce app, then you might want to go with having a whole bunch of composables in your application that you can call to get data. So behind this composable, like usepost, is just making a fetch to the database, right? But then this is much better for testing. This is much easier to handle as the application grows, right? So now we have a third way, and that's using a state management plugin or something like that. It's called Vuex. That's the most popular in the Vue community. Basically, it's kind of separate to handle your state in your application, and it's almost always going to have an opinion about how data should be fetched or how asynchronous operations should be performed. Vuex uses actions, and basically it's going to be able to handle your API layer for you. So there is where you're going to make your API request. And it's kind of very, very good because it's not just giving you a way and a place, a fixed defined place to make your API calls and integrate with your backend, but it's also giving you kind of all of these other nice state management functionality. But of course, it has its drawbacks. Too much code, so much code that you have to write. So unless you're building like a Photoshop for the browser or building the next Figma, I don't even think you should be using Vuex. So these are just the drawbacks. Remember the company you're working for and definitely know all of these so that you can make the right decisions. All right, so that's the basics of how to integrate Vue. If you're using Laravel, Django, or any server-side templating language, you can use the drop-in. And if you're integrating with the browser, make sure you kind of check out my slides, know my recommendations on which method of data fetching to use. All right, thank you guys so much for your patience. You can follow me at Backcoder on Twitter and ask me any questions you have. I'm definitely willing to answer.
Wow, thank you so much, Kati. I mean, I feel good too. That was a very great talk. If you loved Kati's talk, please don't keep it to yourself. Write it in the comment section. Show him love. It's not easy giving a talk. Oh. I mean, I've given talks before at Funstack and the rest, and I'm so happy that all I have to do right now is kind of like gist with you guys. I'm not giving a talk. But if you guys want me to give a talk, I'll drop my APEC tag and then I'll consider it. Well, for now, I won't give any talk. So coming up soon, we're going to have Amarachi 2.0. She's going to be giving us, she's going to be sharing some productivity tips for developers very soon. But before we get into that, so I should get everyone ready and warming up for that, I want to ask a question. What do you think are some unique difficulties that junior developers face at the moment that they might not have had to encounter in the past? So just let me know what you think. You can share it on Twitter, you can write it in the comment section. Let us know, what do you think are the unique problems that a junior developer in 2021 is facing that someone probably, let's say, in 2200 and 2004 or the time of Jesus now. Okay, so that 10 you not have to deal with. Okay, so Amarachi, I'm going to call our Vue.js community Amarachi. I'm going to call her Amy, and then the other one I'm going to call her Amarachi. So Amy is the one we all know on Twitter. That's part of the Vue.js Meetup community, and then Amarachi is our new speaker that's going to be speaking. I hope that's clear. Yeah, that's clear for me too. So Amarachi, I'm going to hand over the floor to you. You can share your screen and get us started. You're presently muted, so just let me know. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I hope you can hear me, right?
Yeah, we can hear you, Amarachi.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on your location. Due to unforeseen circumstances, I'm unable to project my slides by myself. So Amarachi is helping me do that right now while I do the talking. So hello once again. My name is Amarachi Azubike, and I basically wear a lot of caps, but for this event, just quickly that I'm a front-end developer and the community manager at Shikoda Africa. And in the next few minutes, I'm going to be talking about some of the hacks for being more productive as a developer. I'm going to be sharing some of my experiences, and of course, I'm going to be borrowing some leads from experts on what they've done to remain productive and efficient in this time. Okay, so Amma, you can share my screen now, but if that's not possible, I can proceed without the slide. Maybe later on I can share that to the participants. Is that okay? Should I go on? Okay. All right, you can go. Great. Okay, I've already introduced myself and the topic, so we can skip this. All right, so basically, when you hear about productivity, what comes to your mind? For some people, being productive means the amount of projects they can finish per time. For some people, it's the number of size projects they can build. For others, it's the number of domain names, unused domain names they purchase, and all the rest. It's all relative. People have different meanings to these things, but I choose to define productivity as the number of outputs you can give with minimum input. So if you're building a project with minimum, like the barest input you can use to achieve something tangible, that's when I deem it that you're being productive. And as developers, there are certain reasons why we discuss productivity. One of it being that a lot of people think that being busy equates being productive. You can be busy for a whole day and you're not doing anything relevant. That's why it's important for you to know how you can speed up your game because, of course, your boss will definitely love you if you're more productive. You would have more work-life balance and you have job satisfaction if you are productive. So let's quickly go through some of the ways you can improve productivity as a developer. Please move through. I've already explained the next slide, so you have to keep moving to the next one. Yeah, I've talked about this. Let's move next. Great, thank you. All right, so one of the great ways of being productive as a developer is to set goals. And when I say goals, I mean SMART goals. You've already heard about the term SMART, but I'm going to go through it just once again. When you talk about SMART goals, you're talking about goals that are specific. For your goal to be specific, it means it's not ambiguous or vague. For instance, if you say, we're going to build a Vue application this week. It's kind of a vague goal because it's not defined, but you defining it would be to say, I'm going to build a to-do app using Vue.js today or maybe tomorrow, depending on when you want to do that. That's being specific with your goals. And that stands for measurable. Your goals should be something you can measure because if there's no measure to your goal, it will eventually make you not even when you're progressing. So when you have something to measure your goal with, it helps to boost your morale. At least when you get something done, you know that, okay, I've done this right now. A, that stands for achievable. Set goals you can achieve. There are some people who set goals that are way too large. You are not being measured by how large your goals are. It basically depends on how you can be able to achieve them. So if you set goals that are way, way above you and there is no laid down process for you to get them done, you would eventually get yourself, getting fixed up in something you can't achieve and then you feel you're a failure. Whereas you're not. It's just that your goals are way too high for you to achieve. The R there stands for relevance. When you're making your goals, ensure that the goals you're making are relevant to where you see yourself in the future. Of course, we have long-term goals and short-term goals. So if your goals are way too way too off, for instance, if you're working towards being a GDE in the nearest future, you should make short-term goals that are relevant to where you see yourself in the nearest future. Then the last thing there is T, which is time bound. For every goal you set, add a time into it. The time there adds a sense of urgency to your goal. So if you're saying, I'm going to be a better developer, that's virtually nothing. So you have to put a time. When do you want to do this particular thing? So the next thing is setting goals, use weekly and daily to do. When you set your goals, okay, I'm going to do this. How do you plan on achieving them? The how there is what will help you to break these things down to weekly, daily, advocacy. So the last thing there, okay, yeah, those two. Last thing there is to build good systems or habits. This has to do with your daily habits, things you do on a daily that would help you in achieving your goals. Okay, let's move. The next slide, please. All right, this is a popular quote that a goal without a plan is just a wish. So as you're making your goals, always add a tangible plan on how to execute and achieve those goals. Then the next step to being productive is avoiding distractions. As a developer, there is a large level of you working on devices, digital devices, virtually all the time. You're always there on your laptop, you're always there on your phone. And social media is one big distraction a lot of developers have. We have this moment where you just want to test a feature on your phone, and then the next thing you're in the next 2 hours, you're even wondering why you picked up your phone in the first place. That you've been carried away. You couldn't even do what you planned doing with the phone. So one of the ways I personally have put a check on that to turn off my social media notifications. Okay, you're a developer, you're not particularly a social media manager, so your social media notifications don't necessarily need to be on because each time that notification drops, there is always this tendency for you to click on them and want to check what they are for just this 1 minute, just this one notification, and then 5 hours later, you're still scrolling on Twitter. The next thing there is to stay away from your phone. I basically take my phone like a room out of where I am so that even when the impulse to pick up my phone and just check what is going on comes up, I'll be very lazy to stand up from my seat to go pick it up. Then the next is to use calendar blocking. This is particularly useful if you want to maintain an engagement. Maybe you have the social media presence you want to create. You can have a designated time for social media. A lot of the people you see who are very active on social media are not always there from morning to night. They have times when they pick up their phone, engage with people, make their tweets, maybe schedule tweets, check their emails, check Facebook and all the rest, and then they log off. And then you might eventually come up there and you keep scrolling, not knowing that those ones you feel are always on social media are not actually always on social media. Then the last tip here for avoiding distractions is to implement a technique called Pomodoro, where you set your timer depending on how long you can concentrate. On days when I have issues with concentrating, I can set my timer to 25 minutes. So in that 25 minutes, I dedicate to do a particular thing, without being distracted. So once I'm able to do that, once 25 minutes is up, I maybe set it to another 25 minutes or 40 minutes as the case may be. So this kind of gives you a target. Okay, I'm going to keep working on this for the next 40 minutes. I'm not going to leave my feet. I'm not going to leave this tab for the next 40 minutes. Okay. All right. The next slide. So the next thing you can do to increase productivity is to have a good project structure. Having a good project structure helps you to break down your project into chunks of sprints and take them one after the other. So at least, one good thing with project structure is that it gives you that sense of establishment. For instance, if you're able to break up your project into little sprints, when you implement a feature, you have that satisfaction that you have been able to do this. You can be able to measure the progress of your project at time. Then the next way is to automate the small stuff. That's the name of the book. You can read it if you want to. Automate the small stuff. It could be the small stuff that's little as emails. You can set up autoresponders on your WhatsApp or on your social media handles as the case. Maybe you can use labels on your email to group them. And it can also transcend to the big stuff like production monitoring tools where you don't have to do certain manual things yourself. So there are a few things you might no longer need to bother yourself with doing manually when you can easily automate them. So if you find out those ones, you either automate them or you can delegate some activity to someone, maybe a mentee or someone around to just help you. You can also pay someone to do certain tasks for you so that you have enough time on your hands to do the things that are important to you. The next thing is to sleep more. I don't think I need to explain so much on this. We all know what sleep means and we all know how important it is for all of us to sleep. So I think this is explanatory. So the next is to not burn out. Burnout is a period of chronic exhaustion where you don't even have the will to do anything. You can hardly be productive when you are having burnout because you don't have the mental strength to get anything done. So by all means, as a developer, you have to avoid having burnout. And one of the ways to do this is to take care of your mental and physical health. Know when to take breaks. Know when to take breaks. Could be both social media breaks and physical breaks. Some of us have this tendency to take breaks physically, but we are always on social media. Sometimes you also need to stay away from social media just to regain some energy, some mental strength. Then exercise often, get involved in social activities. Go out, not necessarily social activities, relax more and drink more water. Yeah, I didn't add that on the slide, but it's actually necessary that you drink more water. Just do anything you can to not burn out so you can have the strength to stay productive all through. Then the last thing on my list today is to keep learning. Learning never ends, and every good developer should be a lifelong learner. The more you learn, the more knowledge you gain, the more bold and confident you get in doing things you know how to do, and then the more productive you become. So you have to make it a habit to learn something new every day, especially something new relating to your skill or your goal. Remember when we talked about SMART goals? The R there stands for relevance. So whatever thing you're learning should, in one way or the other, affect you positively. Maybe in your goals, what you have planned to do in the future, or what you're planning to do now. So you have to keep learning every single day to increase increase your mental capacity. Okay, so the next slide, please. So just a recap here. I mentioned 8 ways to improve productivity as a developer: set goals, avoid distractions, have a good project structure, automate, sleep more, don't burn out, and keep learning. I have to make this as short as possible, and I do hope that you learned one or two things in this my talk. Thank you all so much for listening to my talk. You can follow me on my Twitter if you want to connect with me at Amara underscore the life. Thank you so much and have a productive week ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Amarachi. That was a
Thank you.
that was a great talk. Like, I actually picked up a lot of things. Apart from things that I learned, I actually also picked up a sub. And that's when she said that stop
Thank you.
checking your social media accounts like for education, that you're not a social media manager. Like, why Amachi? Why would you do that to us? Why would you just get us like that? But it's true. I know that it applies to many of us. We're always checking Twitter. Well, even though you heard up, you probably most people would have probably heard about this meetup via Twitter. I guess it's kind of good, but
I didn't
the
get your
type of
question actually. I think my
notifications.
network is having some glitches. I didn't get what you said.
Oh, I was just saying that you really got us, but
Network is
I
not
guess you
working.
might not get. You probably get the joke in the recording. But yeah, so
Okay.
thank you very much, Amarachi. You really learned a lot.
Oh, of course, I want to do
Whenever
it.
I see Kati, I always feel like Kati wants to say something.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay. So, as I was mentioning earlier, I asked you guys what you think a modern junior developer faces, like the problems they face. And some people are already dropping their comments in the YouTube section. Someone said that Franklin Franklin said whatever anyone. Frank said that nobody believes in them. So nobody believes in junior developers. They apparently think we're Santa Claus. What do you guys think about that? Is it true? Nobody believes in junior developers.
Can I go?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's definitely true. There was a clubhouse event yesterday with a lot of amazing guys in tech, and we were talking about basically the challenges that junior developers face. So yes, it's true that nobody believes in them, but that's not why they do not hire. The reason is because it's very expensive to hire and train a junior developer. So what I would recommend is instead of wanting to get hired as a junior developer, do your best to be able to prove to a company that you are actually more valuable than a junior developer. Because if you've been watching the tech space, many companies have hired junior developers and fired those junior developers again because it's too expensive to train them for about 6 months to 8 months before they actually start contributing valuable code. So that's why even those that hire, they take about one or two and then only do so again in a few years' time. So kind of try to train yourself as much as possible to be able to go through an interview and prove to the company that I am more than a junior developer. If not, the company might not be willing to take that risk. So yeah, it's not because they do believe in you, it's just because it's super, super expensive and they do not want to incur that cost.
But you must kind of admit that it's not as easy to get hireable as it was before. Like right now, new frameworks are coming on. I need to know HTML. At first, you're just HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But now I need to know all of that. I need to know this framework. I need to know GitHub. I need to get into testing. I need to figure out APIs. Okay, this one is using Express. This one is using GraphQL. This one wants to create, and you're just like, there's so many things for me to learn, and I, ju- I need money. So I feel like it's a twofold problem. But what are your thoughts, Edmund?
Yeah, I agree with you. It's a twofold problem. The challenges, one of the challenges of learning as a junior developer is that most times, right, there won't be a way to fund your learning, right? So that's a very, very big challenge. And in a country like we have that we're in over here, that's the major challenge for learning as a junior developer here. So I agree with you. It's actually very hard to get a job as a junior developer as well as level up as a junior developer when there are not enough resources to scale as a junior developer.
Some kind of suggestion that's coming to me is in a way finding a way to get the most out of the situation. So like even if you hire junior developers, so maybe they cannot build that niche feature that you want, but what else can you get from them? I think they can help with technical writing. That's like an
Yeah.
idea while they're also building their skills. So you can have a blog for your company, and then that junior developer that you're not getting so much out of gets to write maybe bi-weekly articles for you. That can help with the growth sector and also help the junior developer because technical writing is actually an important skill for a developer because we're so concerned about the community, right? So we get so much for the community. It's also right for us to give back to the community. And one of the ways you can do that is by writing blogs. I think that's the way to like get things. So I think I'm actually saying, yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, you said something about technical writing, and Edward said something about funding. Like as a junior developer, you're trying to study and you're limited. You don't have cash or money to get internet. Yeah. So as a junior developer who is learning, and you said writing, yeah, there are a lot of there are a lot of like platforms where they can actually write and get paid for what they are learning. So, for example, Log Rocket Pay for you to write or zero pays and they pay in dollars. Currently, Works Hub is actually paying too for you to actually share your knowledge with them. So you must not be like an advanced person to be able to share your knowledge and actually make money. So yeah, so as a junior developer, I think if you want to make an extra source of income, they should look into technical writing so they can be sharing knowledge and making money while preparing for a career. And maybe one day they will definitely get a job and skill from there. Yeah, so that's it.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Amarachi. And apart from technical writing, it's you can even like do videos and stuff. You should know that maybe when you see junior developers, sometimes junior developers can tend to like underestimate their skills and think that, oh, just because I know how to import this CSS file or link it to my HTML, that means I don't know much. There are literally people that are not yet junior developers, people that can't even figure out, you know, how to, I don't know, a simple like installing a package is already a difficulty for them and you already know how to do that, so you can share that information. So you should not think that at every stage that you're at there's literally someone that you can actually teach and share knowledge with. So sometimes being able to like be proactive and share the knowledge that you have, no matter how little it may be, can really rub off good on you because it shows that you have a lot of potential and that you are community driven. But in all of this, we can give all of this advice, but that does not take away from the fact that it is actually harder now to be a junior developer. But hang in there. And we're very thankful for frameworks like Vue that are relatively easier to grasp and so you can level up faster. So learn Vue. You like it. Um, so does anyone else have any feedback about that or anything else to add about that? Let me check out the comments.
Um, I don't know if I should just say one or two because a lot of people are commenting on the YouTube section saying that it's kind of difficult to get a job as a junior developer, yeah, which is actually true. But just a little to add, and I'll just put this out there that if you're a junior developer or you're trying to build a career in tech, I would just say you put yourself out there. So when you build a project, you don't just build it on your local system, as I stated earlier. Try to show people your work. Let people see what you're doing. Don't just be an introvert in your bedroom doing things all by yourself. Just keep yourself out there. Post things about what you do, about your work, and let people get interested in you. So who knows, it might get easier to actually land a job or get a job through any social media platform. Reach out to people, tell them that okay, this is what I'm doing, or okay, I would love to work at your company. Is there a way to go about it? Is there a way to like submit my CVs? Don't be afraid to meet people. That's just the little advice I have.
Yeah, thank you, Amarachi. That's actually really true. If you guys did not notice, we unfortunately run Flames. We know him as Oluwole, but you guys know him as Flames, Mr. Flames on Twitter. He was unavailably absent. But maybe in the next meetup we'll have him. So this marks the end of the meetup. We, like you said, from 12 to 2, it's almost 2, and we keep the time in this place. So I actually love keeping the time. So I'm very happy. I want to say thank you, Amarachi. Thank you, Edmond. Thank you, Kati. Thank you, Amarachi 2.0. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, everyone that signed up for this. You guys make up the community. I'm just sure we won't have any community or anything to like present. So we're going to on our social media platform, we're going to share the slides for each speaker and also follow the speakers on Twitter. Look, like I think Edmund shared his YouTube channel. Subscribe. You should support speakers, because they're giving back to the community, and not everyone is doing that. And it's actually something that should be appreciated. So show them love, tell them like them, tell them love them, send them money. To drop their back tags. They won't, but yeah, you can send their DM, send them a bit of money. Oh, send them Bitcoin, don't send them Naira in this Buhari's economy. Send them Bitcoin and all of that. If you don't know where to buy Bitcoin, you can buy from Bitcoins Africa. Yeah, you can buy from Bitcoins Africa.
Yo.
Yes, now.
Yo. What a plug. Okay,
It's the
okay,
truth.
okay.
Yes, buy from Bitcoins Africa. You can follow me on Twitter as I think it's Linda Ojo _. Who knows? Just you can follow me on Twitter, Sha, if you want. I don't tweet a lot, but I share stuff and I write weekly articles. So you'd really enjoy that. They're really beginner friendly. I don't know why Kathy's just laughing. It's very sharp. So thank you so much, everyone. I'm looking forward to your tweets. I'm looking forward to follow me on Twitter. I'll follow back. I'm looking forward to interacting with everyone. And I'm looking forward to the next couple of meetups that we're going to have. This was our first meetup, and I'm so happy for how everything turned out. We had a bit of let's say, struggles here and there, but it's the first one, and we can only get better from here. Future meetups are going to be way more in-depth and focused on Vue.js. Right now, we just gave like an intro. So we're assuming maybe you just came from nowhere and you're trying to figure out what it is. So you have 1 month to become a front-end developer. Joking, but yeah. So we're going to go more in-depth into Vue, and yeah, we're going to have fun learning and enjoying this wonderful framework that lets us build for the world that we are in. So this is the end of the first ever Vue.js Nigeria meetup. Thank you, Ben, for coming on. Thank you for helping us set this whole thing up. We couldn't have done it without you. So yeah, I don't want to say bye-bye, but I have to say bye-bye too. I have to say bye. We have to end this. We can't, it's not working. We can't keep doing this. It's not you, it's me. Is it the other way around? But yeah, maybe some other time. Maybe but we can be friends. Okay, I think the Vue.js meetup is officially over by 2, so I can kind of like this does not go in my permanent record basically. But that way, you guys can start. Well, we're done basically, but yeah, we're done. So we
Yeah.
will stop sharing live on YouTube. If you want to see my fine face, follow me on Twitter. Bye. I'm going to stop now.